The People versus OJ, episode 6. Okay, and the link to the full episode will be on Twitter. Okay, at Jazz Chapman when it is available. So go ahead and hit your girl up with the like. We're gonna actually try to do a quick review, quicker than normal, I guess. And y'all, let's just get into it, shall we? Okay, so first off is Marcia Clark. She is in trial, and it's not OJ. It's a different trial case that she has to do. I believe it has to do with child support. And she is totally acting unprofessional. You can tell that this OJ case is really weighing on her because she's out of character. And so the judge is threatening to kick her out, and then she has another outburst. And the judge is like, okay, you gotta go. Like, I'm not Lance Ito. Okay, I don't play that. So she ends up leaving out, rushing into the OJ trial. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe that's why she was acting like just a little too high for too light on my eyes, messing up my eyes. Anyways, so she ends up rushing into the OJ trial, and they're like, well, it's nice to see you, Miss Clark. You are definitely late. So then, she's like, well, I'm sorry, Your Honor. And then Johnny ends up bringing up how they want to bring the witness, and she's like, well, I don't think that it's time to bring the witness. And so basically they end up putting the trial into recess so the witness can come the next day. Was that the I might be out of line, okay? I'm gonna be real with you. I might be out of timeline with that. I might have that wrong. But anyway, so we're gonna move on. So then Barbara is confronted by her ex-husband on how she's never there for the kids. Like, the babysitter is always with them. She's always working too much. And she's like, well, you know that I'm a great mother. And he was like, yeah, when you're there. But they're with the babysitter all the time. So, I mean, he's got a point, though. Shit, this is messing with my eyes. I mean, they got a point, though. You're never there. They might as well be with their dad. So that's another situation that she's got to deal with while going through this hectic case. What else was going on in this? Darden ends up telling Marcia that, this situation with Furman is it's not gonna be on their side, okay? He's like, I believe that they are looking forward to having Furman, okay, so they can use that whole racial, thing going, that whole racial incident that he's been calling some of the people niggers, the black people niggers. So she's like, no, I mean, they wouldn't do that. You really think they looking forward to it? And he's like, yeah, I think they're looking forward to it. So they end up going to trial the next day, and they end up talking to the judge, and he's like, yeah, well, we're gonna have to end up putting this into recess right now, and we're gonna have to end up doing a late trial today. And she's like, Your Honor, I don't think that, I can't do that. And he's like, well, I've already dismissed the jurors. Like, what do you mean we can't do that? She was like, because I have to go home and I have to go watch my kids. And it's nothing but men in there, so then they're laughing at her. And he ends up bringing up, well, Your Honor, since her babysitting issues are more important than this trial, then, I mean, she's not taking anything serious. So she's like, I am. I mean, I don't think he knows about having to work 70 hours and and all this. So the judge ends up putting it into recess. I'm so sorry, y'all. So the judge ends up putting it into recess, and so she's got a break now. But then her and Darton goes in to office, and she still ends up working late, and then she ends up calling her ex-husband on how she has to, work, and she's like, are you gonna do it or not? Are you gonna watch him? And so she did all that, and she still didn't end up watching the kids. So Johnny now, he done been confronted by the other reporters, and they were like, so do you care to speak on your past abuse allegations? And he's like, he's just laughing it off. And they was like, well, I mean, I feel like it's fair game since you are in this trial. And so he's laughing it off like it isn't nothing. And he turns around and he's like, fuck. Like, they caught on. So now he ends up calling his ex-wife to, let her know, well, okay, I believe the National Enquirer are going to hit you up. And I just wanted to talk to you before you talk to him. She was like, yes, Johnny, they already called. Okay, but, I told him I'll call him back when I have the time to. So he starts basically bribing her on how, whatever property that she lost out on their whole divorce, he's end up going to give it to her. So he's bribing her. I'm like, damn, Johnny. I know you did some things that was, undercut. But I thought you was like a stand-up guy. I mean, damn. So now he's got to look out for his back. Lee is they're all drunk, him and Johnny, and who's the other, Douglas. And they're sitting there laughing and talking, and he's like, this is Furman's tombstone, and I'm gonna bury him. And they're like, how you gonna do that? He was like, nigger. And he was like, excuse me? He was like, I'm going to bring up nigger, and I'm going to ask him, has he ever used it against any black people, to describe any black people? And Johnny's like, it's kind of, that's all right. That's all right. It just might work. So, excuse me. So now Lee's got something under his belt. They winning on this trial. Johnny already, I forgot to mention that it was one of the cops that found, the white Bronco or whatever. They bring up the whole situation on, is it protocol for these cops to go from the crime scene and then go to the ex-husband's house to let him know that the wife was murdered, or his ex-wife was murdered, and for 3 cops to do it at that. And they're like, well, I mean, it depends. It's case to case. And so the dream team is eating their ass alive. So he's like, okay, so what, it's case to case. I mean, and Marcia's like, damn, like, for real, they getting him on this? And he's like, oh, okay, well, was it case to case? Was you just trying to help out I guess somebody that ex-husband, let them know that their ex-wife was killed, but then you start turning him into a suspect? Like, were you trying to help him out that way? And he's like, I mean, he's like, cracking under pressure. He's like, man, no, I mean, see, this, and so basically he doesn't have anything to say. And so then the next day, when they end up proceeding to the trial, Johnny is talking to one of the other police officers, and they're laughing and joking. And I guess because he's known him before, and he's like, oh, okay, so I moved out to Simi Valley, or is that what it called, Simi Valley? And he was like, oh, okay, that is great. And then he looks at him and he's like, oh, damn. You can tell Johnny has an angle. So then they're in the courtroom, and the that police officer, or I should say detective, is under oath, and they ask him, well, what happened to the evidence that you had? And he's like, I took it home before turning it in. And he's like, oh, you took it home. And he's acting all shocked as if he didn't know this. So he's like, wow, you took it home. Okay. So where exactly do you live? And he's like, looking at him like, really? You know where I live. He's like, I live in Simi Valley. Simi Valley. Really? Is that the same home of the officers that were involved in the Rodney King case? And he's like, yes, that is correct. I'm like, dang, Johnny and them is good. And Marcia's like, shit, I can't believe we have to deal with this right now. So they are, the dream team on this episode is winning. They end up taking a recess. Marcia ends up going upstairs, and her boss is like, come in here. And she's like, what's going on? And he's like, well, I need to show you this, and it's naked picture. He was like, tell me if it's true. If it's not true, we can sue. And she's like, these are real. And he's like, okay, I'm not understanding. She was like, my ex-husband took these pictures. And he was like, I forgot, the guy that she just was currently married to. He's like, he did that? And she was like, no, there was somebody before him. So basically, now that's something else she got to deal with, is people trying to, blackmail her just because of this whole fame, I guess. Just because she's on TV. Not only that, she's got to deal with losing, her kids. Because now her husband and went to the media and was like, that whole situation with her talking about she's doing this for the kids and she's got to take off because she's got to go home to the kids. She still didn't come home and watch the kids. I ended up watching them. So this ain't going too well for Marcia. That was basically it. Well, that's it for me. So, I think I done ran over the key points. But, and Furman. They did bring up the whole thing with Furman. Lee did ask him about the nigger thing. He's like, no, I've never called anyone a nigger. I've never described anyone like that. And he's like, okay, so if we ask all of them, what are they going to say? Are they going to say you're lying? He's like, yes, all of them. I'm like, you just sound so stupid. But that's it for this episode. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at Jazz Chapman. And follow me on Instagram at Jazz_Chapman. And if I left anything out, y'all, let me know in the comments. Bye.